Boy, it's gotten quiet all of a sudden. Leslie, Julie, everyone, good morning. Are we about ready to get started? Can you all hear me?
Yes. Now we can.
Great. Great. Are we ready to commence?
Yes.
Sir, yes, sir.
Great. Hey, good morning. We'll convene the Youth Justice Oversight Committee. We're broadcasting live throughout the entire world. So welcome to those that are viewing online. Some of our Oversight Committee members are viewing online today, including myself. All I can say to all of you is you just can't beat capping a 2-week trip out of the country, visiting Israel, Greece, and Turkey until you get COVID coming back. So I'll show you the pictures next time. I wanted to come and bring the pictures and wear plastic bubble wrap, but Leslie and Julie said no. So I'm back in Columbus. It was a great trip, but apparently the cruise at the very end, fortunately we got out of there before testing positive, but both Catherine and I got it. So, but hopefully it's a mild case. I didn't think I would get COVID. I had this theory that people with O positive or O negative blood were somehow immune, and so my theory was proved incorrect. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to endeavor to chair the meeting today. If my voice gives out, I'm not feeling too bad. No fever, no issues like that. Then Leslie will take over. But appreciate your cooperation, assistance. If I miss something because I've got a bad angle or bad view, let us know, and we'll accommodate. You have the minutes. They've been previously distributed. Let's deal with the minutes first, then we'll get into welcome and introductions. So any suggested changes, corrections, additions to the minutes of the last Oversight Committee meeting? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Devin. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Devin. Is there a second?
Second.
And that was?
Steve Balco.
Thanks, Steve. We'll need to do a roll call vote. So Julie or Leslie, could you call roll on that? And we'll go through a yes or a no very quickly.
Sure. Dr. Matt Alsma.
Yes.
Stephen Balco.
Yes.
Cirilla Blackman.
Yes.
Vicki Carmichael.
Yes.
Shannon Chambers is not here. Terry Decker is not here. Judge Delahanty.
Yes.
Tracy Fitz.
Yes.
Judge Foley.
Yes.
Judge Graham.
Yes.
Mary Kay Hudson.
Yes.
Devin McDonald.
Yes.
Nicole Phillips.
Yes.
Terry Stigdon.
Yes.
Nancy Weaver.
Yes.
Joel Weinecke.
Yes.
James Wilson. Okay, he's absent. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, well, we have the members online. Sorry about that.
No, I got.
Oh, you did get that?
Yeah.
Well, not that it matters, but I vote yes. So we'll show the minutes approved as submitted. I was a little concerned. Judge Delahanty said he was going to mount some sort of opposition to the minutes, but apparently he backed off on that. So that's good. I don't believe we have any new individuals or any first-time attendees as far as the Oversight Committee, but I do want to open up to give everybody an opportunity. Is there anything relevant to the work that we're doing that you want to talk about, get off your chest, share right off the bat? I've heard great things about the JDAI Oversight Conference. Was just curious if anybody had anything they'd like to share, non-COVID, non-trip wise for the group today. Anyone? Oh, come on. Who attended the JDAI Oversight? You weren't on vacation. Fantastic. How was that?
Great.
Great. Very good.
Good.
It was really good. It was really good, Justice David. We had a lot of good takeaways from it and going to kind of re-energize, I think, counties that were lacking.
Great. That's great to hear. Nancy and her team worked extremely hard on that and had a great agenda, and all of you were very much a part of that. Have any of the Oversight Committee members that aren't on a work group I know you're busy and it's not required, but have you had an opportunity to set in on virtually or live any of the work group meetings? Just don't know if your schedules have permitted that or not.
Just David, this is Joel Wenicky. I'd like to just bring up something real quick about that. Is it possible that the Youth Justice Oversight Committee members could get a virtual link to them that they could be posted somewhere, and that if we just wanted to sit in on random meetings as our schedules permit, we could sit in and watch and see what's going on in those meetings?
Yeah, I don't think I'll misspeak, but I think that's certainly doable. I think all the work groups have met, obviously, and if they have determined that a virtual format is acceptable to them, then we can certainly let all of the Oversight Committee members know that would be sitting in observing those work groups. Is there am I missing anything prohibiting that? Leslie?
No, in fact, every group that's met has had a virtual component so far. So all of the meetings are listed on the new website. The bottom of that is on the agenda for today. So on the new agenda or on the new website, we list all the meetings. If you can just let us know if there's one you want to attend, we will send you the Zoom link. The Zoom link for the work group meetings is not public, so we don't post that. So if you want to attend, you would just need to email myself or Julie, and we'll take care of that for you. We'll get you the link for any of the work group meetings you might like to attend.
Thank you, Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we've got fantastic professional staff involved. So, if you need a reminder, or if there's one particular work group that you're really, really interested in this week or next week, but I would certainly encourage all of the Oversight Committee members that aren't actively on a work group. Certainly, we want to make this experience as rewarding and worthwhile and as inclusive, and want to ensure that you have ownership in this. Indeed, you do. We know you're busy. If you miss one and you wanted to watch that or view that or participate or listen in, we have minutes that are posted. We can get those sent to you. So whatever we need to do to tailor it for you and your schedule, we'll do our best to do that. Is that good, Joel?
That's great. Thank you so much, Justice.
Super. Anyone else have any compelling thoughts or great stories?
I was just going to say I did attend the JDAI conference, which was fabulous. I thought it was very, very well done. And one of the best components was that there was, I think, 23, is that number right, Nancy? 23 youth with lived experience there that we were able to interact with, that participated in the sessions. They had a youth panel. They also had affinity groups where we could interact with the youth, and very, very impressed with they were not just polite, but engaged and interested, and really interested in the work and wanting to make a difference and share their stories. And it was a very positive experience and very inspiring. to be around them. So I think that, wasn't that with Voices also?
Yes.
Yes, so they do a very, very nice job preparing the youth for what they're about to get engaged in. They don't just bring youth and they don't know what's going on. They were very well prepared, and I thought it was extremely well done.
That's great. That's great to hear. I'm sorry I missed that, but that certainly is the teaser for, I think later on the agenda, Kia is going to have an opportunity to give us an update on the formation of the Youth and Family Advisory Committee, and hopefully some of those same young men and women will be able to provide some input and some feedback to some of the recommendations that we will be putting together for our final report going forward. And just a reminder that they are the reason we are doing this, and why you have committed to this, and why you have found this time worthwhile, as busy as everybody is. So great. Any other conversations, comments before we move on to our next agenda item? Was the champagne served at the right temperature today? I tried to coordinate that, but maybe I was supposed to bring that. So we'll fix that in December. You know, the next meeting is December 14th at the Government Center. And so definitely apologize for missing today. But things happen. But just so happens that we were talking about JDAI, and we thought it would be helpful today. Many of you are knee deep in JDAI, some of you from different perspectives, but just to make sure that our oversight committee is all singing from the same hymn book, so to speak. A lot of the work being done and has been done with JDAI has been transformational in the processes, and many of you are certainly engaged in that and have contributed to its success. We thought it would be helpful to give a little bit of a presentation, sort of a JDAI overview in Indiana, and really sort of how it relates to the work of the Youth Justice Oversight Committee. And don't want to take a lot of your time today, but Nancy was kind enough to volunteer to give this. And for those JDAI overachievers, it's always good to have a little recap. And so without further ado, Nancy, are you prepared and excited to give us a little overview?
Always excited, Justice David.
Great. Sorry I'm not there. Fire away.
So I have to admit, I'm feeling a little pressure as I look around the room, and I'm like, who doesn't know this, right? But I did think about, as I was preparing for this, doing something a little different in terms of the connection with the work of this committee. And kind of, as I was thinking about it, I thought, we really just want to kind of understand where we started, what the evolution has been, and where we're going. I will just say, first of all, thank you for allowing me the opportunity. As this work was developing through the Juvenile Justice Task Force, and as the legislation was being drafted, I was paying very close attention. And I was also having lots of questions in my mind about, what does this mean? How do we work together? How do we not be duplicative? How do we not run over each other, but definitely work very much in alignment? And I've kind of come to, in my own head, at least, make sense of the connection between the work of JDAI and the work of this committee, really as being, JDAI really was the foundation, is the foundation. This doesn't mean necessarily that the rest, the other counties in the state of Indiana are all going to become JDAI counties. It doesn't mean that the JDAI counties are somehow going to have to switch their priorities or their focus. But the way that I'm approaching it, and the way that I think our executive committee is approaching this, is really that this is an opportunity for the rest of the state to learn from our successes and also our lessons learned, so that we are in a position, we're not starting from here, we're really starting from here. And where we go as a state is exciting. Yes, Justice David, he knows I just get excited about this stuff. And if I start using my hands and walking around a little bit, you might know that that's kind of my MO when I think about youth legal system reform. So thank you for the opportunity. I want to start with just a little bit. I need to acknowledge the Annie Casey Foundation. You all heard from them at the last meeting. They really developed the model for youth legal system improvement known as JDAI. We would not be where we are today without their support and guidance over the last 20 plus years. They've invested a lot of money and a lot of energy in Indiana to allow us to develop and adapt the model, and that's key. They have not been a foundation that's come in and said, this is JDI, you will do it this way. And the way that we have adapted it has had their support. And we're extremely appreciative for that. And when I say like their ongoing support, by ongoing, I mean as recent as last week. The youth delegation that Leslie mentioned was made possible by a grant from the Casey Foundation, Two Voices, to bring those youth to the table. And they supported that enthusiastically. They made one request, I think, and in the grant application, they said, do you think you could ask in the evaluation if the conference was enhanced by their participation? I think from everything that I've heard, the answer is going to be a resounding yes after we get those evaluations back. Next slide, please. So in the beginning, so we're going to talk about just the beginning because it is important to know where we came from. And I think that all of you know that JDAI started as a detention reform initiative in the 1990s. And it started this way because there were some really bad things happening for youth. We'd filled up our detention centers out of fear of the super predator, right? And the result was not safe for communities. That's what we thought was going to happen, but it was not safe for communities. Instead, it was overcrowding, unsafe and unsanitary conditions for both the young people and the adults. So the Juvenile Justice Strategy Group started in one site in Florida, and they started looking at who was in detention and why. And what they find? They found that most of the youth in detention were there for low-level offenses and really were not a risk to public safety. JDI is first and foremost and will always be a public safety initiative. JDI is first and foremost and will always be a public safety initiative. I want to make that really clear. They also found that instead of improving public safety, placing youth in secure detention really had some detrimental impact. We know that youth who are securely detained are more likely to be involved in future delinquent behavior. They are less likely to graduate high school. Their mental health conditions are exacerbated, if not have an onset of a mental health condition, and their normal adolescent development is disrupted. The Juvenile Justice Strategy Group did some work there in Florida, and then they started with a few other sites. Fast forward, and the model known as JDAI was in play. Expansion across the country was intense, and JDAI continues to be the most widely replicated system improvement model in the country. This is how it came to Indiana, too, as a detention reform initiative, because guess what? The same thing was happening here. We were having explosions in our secure detention populations. Facilities were being built or expanded to house these dangerous predators. Juvenile probation officers started to look like tactical law enforcement officers. And guess what? Public safety was not improved. Kids weren't safe in detention, and nor was the staff. So, hello, 2022. I guess we're looking at the future first. So JDAI in Indiana started in 2006 in Marion County. Shout out to Judge Broadwell for being here and being part of this work, even though she was not on the. She did attend the conference last week, though, and I think already has some ideas about how to do some things differently in Marion County.
That was wonderful.
So the first 8 counties were onboarded by 2010, and then we had 2 large-scale expansions in 2014. Wayne County, Allen County both came on in 2014, and then in 2016. And then we've continued to bring on other counties one at a time. We also have created an introductory site opportunity for counties who are thinking about JDAI, but they really are stuck on this place about it being a detention reform initiative and not sure the model is going to work in their county. So we're giving them an opportunity to explore it. Although we'll get to the evolution in a little bit and how we are evolving beyond the detention reform piece, there are still a lot of sites. People ask me, why don't counties want to be JDAI? And the biggest thing that I hear is when I talk to judicial officers in counties that are not yet part of the initiative, they say, we only detain, 9 or 10 kids a year. And I continue to say, it's not just about that, but we're moving. We have grown from having support of 2 state agencies to being governed by 6, and which all are represented on this committee. I'm not going to take you through all the details of the expansion, but just want to point out a few things. In 2009, JDAI was identified as Indiana's model for youth justice system improvement. Now, it took us a while to get organized. We were not institutionalized under the Indiana Supreme Court until 2013. But the important thing is that this model was recognized early on as a way to transform our youth justice system, not just as detention reform, but all along the continuum of the youth legal system. This happened almost immediately because the counties that were implementing JDAI saw a correlation in decreases decreases in commitments to the Department of Correction. And what they found was that just by doing a better job of controlling the front gates, they were having an impact that they didn't anticipate on the deepest end of the system. So we were onto something, right? What if we could lean into that and become data informed and collaborative and intentional about addressing racial and ethnic disparities all along the continuum, from prevention to diversion to intervention to reintegration? That was way back then. We started thinking about that. At the same time that we were thinking about beyond detention reform, so was the Juvenile Justice Strategy Group at the Casey Foundation. Let me be clear, we will never take our eye off the ball of detention. But we had counties who joined the initiative who had detention populations in the single digits, and we were listening to them. What's important in their community, and how could we use the model to change what makes sense for them? So when we're talking about Stark County and LaGrange County and Scott County, the smaller communities who said, yes, we want to do youth legal system reform, but we just don't necessarily need to focus on detention. Great. Come on. We'll take you. So we've had this synergy developing between 2016 and 2020. Indiana's hustling along, Casey Foundation supporting and challenging all the sites to deepen their authentic commitment to transformation. And the Casey Foundation, I want to also let you know, Casey Foundation recognizes Indiana's work specifically in how we implement the core strategy of data-informed decision-making, in our process of developing detention screening tools, how we onboard new sites, and our robust process of conducting facility self-assessments. They look to us as leaders in the work and often reach out and request assistance in other jurisdictions. We're piloting a new process for facility self-assessments for the country. That doesn't happen just because they just pluck people. Speaking of data, while we're still talking about the beginning, we're moving into the evolution, right? But I couldn't quite separate the beginning and the evolution. So I wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing regarding data, because it's important for the work of this group to understand what's possible for the rest of the state. So while we're beginning to evolve, we're also tightening up on processes and data quality so that we can actually have some statewide, and when I say statewide, I mean statewide JDAI. We call that statewide, but I recognize it is not statewide. And we also want to be able to break that out by counties. So when we're looking at system performance data, meaning data that can be used to see how the system is performing, not outcomes of individual youth, because JDAI is about system reform, which is the way that we as adults are making decisions that impact youth. When we're doing this, we focus on 2 metrics, impact and momentum. Impact meaning what has changed since you started, and momentum being what's happening over the most recent period of time. I need to back up for just a second because I don't want anybody to think that I just said that individual outcomes of youth are not important. They are very important. Those are research questions, right? Those are things that we want to know. We want to understand, did what we do here impact this individual youth? But when we're thinking about system reform, we're really looking inwardly at the decisions that we are making, we as the adults. So this first slide is looking at impact. And what you're seeing here, this is data from 33 JDAI counties, and it's comparing 2021, our most recent year that we've done an annual report, to each county's baseline year, and we aggregate that. So the blue bars represent what happened in 2021, the data we have from 2021. The gray bars represent what was in baseline year. Okay, so the upper left corner, I'm just going to give you a little snippet about how to read this. You'll all get this, I think. Yes, so you can dig into it and dive a little deeper on your own. But really what you're seeing here, secure detention admissions, again, that's where we started, right? That's where we have our most robust quality data because we've worked hard on that. We're going to talk about where we're going next, but secure detention admissions from 2021 compared to baseline, there were, I'm going to have to, I did the addition in my head. There, in the baseline year, there were 14,317 admissions to secure detention. In 2021, there were 3,266. That's a 77% decrease overall. Now, we break this down by white and youth of color. We can also break down youth of color by race and ethnicity. But overall, we start big, right? We say we've had a 77% decrease in secure detention admissions. That's not individual youth, because a youth can be admitted more than one time during the time period. Those are admissions. The next thing I want you to look at is the bottom right-hand corner, which is felony petitions filed. That is what we use as our juvenile crime indicator. We encourage sites to use whatever they want, but as a state, we thought, what's the lowest common denominator? What can we get to show that if we're reducing secure detention admissions, it's not a bad thing. The kids aren't out there running amok and having and causing more crime. So the juvenile crime indicator for felony petitions filed shows that there was a 60% decrease. So we've had a 77% decrease in admissions to secure detention, and right alongside a 60% decrease in felony petitions filed. Again, thinking about if you're controlling the front gate and you're looking a little differently to how you're bringing kids into the system, that's even another piece of it, right? Where are we filing our petitions? What are we doing differently? So the other thing that I wanted to show you in terms of commitments to the Department of Correction, which I mentioned earlier, again, this is impact. This is data from 2021 compared to the baseline year. There's been a 75% reduction overall in commitments to the Department of Correction. 77% for white youth, 74% for youth of color. You may wonder why we don't have youth of color felony petitions filed. It's because we didn't collect it early on. We didn't collect it back in 2006 when Marion County came on as a site. We were not looking as intentionally at racial and ethnic disparities. So we don't have that from the baseline year for all those, but we do have it now. You'll see a different slide in momentum from about 2019, I think, going on. Any questions about that? Any questions about how to read it? Again, you'll get this so you can dig into this a little bit more, but think about that. Think about if we could have that statewide, if we could know detention admissions statewide, if we could know felony petitions filed statewide, all of that information. Wouldn't that be fun? We can also break down by counties. Each county has this data on their own too. One of the other things about JDAI is that we give data back to counties and we collect it in a way that is useful to them. We don't want to just be the black hole where they submit reports and never see it again, never hear from it. Yes, Devin.
Sorry, quick question on the data. Is this data just from JDAI counties or statewide?
Just from JDAI, yeah.
Just making sure.
33 counties. We have a 34th county that is reporting, but we don't have their data yet for their newer county. Okay, next slide, please. So again, just to demonstrate the kind of data that we collect, this is the same quadrants, right? Admissions to secure detention, then we went to felony petitions filed, we came over here, the average length of stay. This is the momentum piece. So we want to see also, how are we doing over time? What's happening? We picked the last 5 years because we're really confident in the quality of the data from 2017 on, but it's the exact same type of data, just shown in a different way. Again, we're breaking it down by youth of color and white. We can break youth of color down by race and ethnicity further. We'll see some of that in just a second. Down here, yeah, like I said, it's just 2020 and 2021 is when we're confident in the, we started collecting in 2019, but couldn't report on it until 2020 in terms of breaking out felony petitions filed by youth of color and white youth. Any questions or observations? Anything you notice about that? Anything interesting?
So
No, I always tend to go to 2020 to see what impact COVID had and if things will, I use my air quotes here so that Justice can see that, normalize, if there will be any change in the data as we look at 2021 through 2024.
For sure, Director Stigman, that's a great point. We use that also. It's kind of an anomaly year in some ways. One of the things that we have been talking a lot about, however, is if we could get to that in terms of secure detention admissions in 2020, why couldn't we stay there? Right? Why couldn't we stay there? We do know that even in 2022, we're continuing to see detention admissions creep back up. We're continuing to see longer lengths of stay again, those kinds of things. And we just continue to ask our sites, you know, what did you do back then that maybe worked and you want to continue?
What % of youth live in JDI County?
73%. So although we are only active in 36-ish counties, and I say ish because some are introductory sites, some have had a change in leadership and are maybe taking a step back for a minute. So 36-ish 36-ish counties, but we touch 73% of the youth population aged 10 to 17. Yes.
I got a question. I'm looking at the data and I see a trend.
James, can you use the microphone?
Sorry, don't speak up loud. So can you guys hear me? Awesome. So I'm looking at the data, and when I see the trend of data, I do see decrease, but I also see a stagnation amongst youth of color. And so I'm trying to figure out why from year to year, we're looking at a 5-year increment. Why do we still see that stagnation there? Why is it still a level of disproportionalization there?
James, we didn't talk before this meeting, did we?
We have not.
Yeah, so you're a plant kind of, but not really. I appreciate the question because this won't tell you why, right?
All right.
This is descriptive data, but this can help you as a starting point to dig in because if you have a question about it, then you have ways to look at why. Typically in system reform, we're going to look at policies. We're going to look at the things that, again, the decisions that the adults are making to see what we can do to change that. We're not going to change human behavior. And there are research around best practices, evidence-based practices, things that are going to get to those individual outcomes that we talk about. That is not what this is going to tell you. But it works in conjunction with and alongside those other kind of burning questions that the researchers want to know. You know, because I did this, did this work? So that's a great place to start because you said one of the biggest highlight, right, is we're still seeing youth of color detained more at a higher rate than white youth. Why is that?
And that's another question. When we're looking at that why factor, right? What that data shows, the reflective pieces of what are the still common issues that's going on in the communities that have not been addressed, right? So you're talking about how we and adults make that decision, allowing us to really make a very strong, effective, and evolutionary decision.
And interestingly, one of the most common, so Judge Dolahaney, Magistrate Foley, yes, you know this, right? One of the most common responses is, well, youth of color are committing the higher level offenses however, not necessarily, because the data that we have, you can drill down and look at that. So it has to be something else, right? Yep. So we're looking at all of those things. And you know, maybe it's the detention screening tool. Are there some things built in the detention screening tool that cause youth of color to be detained at a higher rate? Possibly. You know, risk assessment. Those are different than detention screening tools. We have the detention screening tool, we have risk assessments. And, you know, are there things built into those? Are there things about the community, the well-being, the overall well-being of youth, those kind of indicators, are those things influencing the disparities that we're seeing? But
if we're looking at, to me, I'm looking more in just the detention center. Sorry, I concentrate on this a little bit, but I'm looking more than just the detention center. We have to go back again, look at the root cause, how they even prosecuted, right? Yes. So it's a prosecutor that has to file the affidavit, go in front of the judge for them to be prosecuted, how they've been looked at with the charges and that they've really been evaluated, things of that nature, even going back to even the law enforcement perspective as well. So sorry. No, don't be sorry at all. And you're right, but I hate to say that word. In Indiana, there are 92 counties, right? And the youth justice system really is decentralized. And so when you're saying it's up to the prosecutor filing, well, in some situations, the detention happens before the prosecutor even sees the case. Yes. It's all, you know, there are lots of different ways that youth get into that front door. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
How the detention numbers works with the children that are dual status children. That's great. I'm sorry. I was asking about if this information takes into consideration children that are dual status and also have chins, because I know with us, one of the issues is when you do have children detained and that you'd like to get them out of detention, having somewhere to send them, and some of our dual status kids have problems such that if they weren't dual, they didn't have the other issues going on, they wouldn't be detained. And so I'm just wondering if any of this data takes into consideration dual status children.
So this does not, but you can get at it. And there's two ways in the work that we're doing in the JDAI counties. There's a case processing study. And one of the data points in the case processing study is what is in statute around, help me. It's around, yeah, but when the options, the referral decision options are file a petition with dual status or file a petition without, or those kind of, so there are places now where we're collecting that information in terms of case processing, how quickly youth are getting through the system. And the other place that we capture that is a detention utilization study, which is what most counties, not all now, because again, we're listening to the smaller communities who may not have enough data to do one, but a detention utilization analysis right up front. And one of the questions that we gather in that is, did the youth have DCS involvement? And so there's a couple of different places we can get it. Average length of stay is a good place because of our case processing piece. We're trying to see if there are dual status youth, are they staying in detention longer? So your local, we can definitely look at that locally. We have not figured out a way to do that necessarily JDI statewide yet, but certainly looking at it. And we have that capacity. So again, the important point on this is that it's descriptive data, but you can use it as a starting place to dig in, to start asking those questions. Next slide, please. This is the exact same kind of framework, kind of structure where we look at impact first. This is on average daily population. So on any given day in the year, on average, any average day in the year, you could expect to see in the baseline years, 269 youth in secure detention, white youth in secure detention, and 73 in 2021. Same thing with youth of color. The baseline year, on any given average day in the baseline year, there were 334 youth of color in secure detention. And in 2021, there were 123. Over on the right side, I just wanted to show a little bit about how we can break down the youth of color. So we have that capacity to look at Black youth, American Indian youth, Hispanic youth, two or more races or other. We struggle with that a lot. I don't like the word other, but in a lot of our communities, the other category includes multiracial youth. So we decided to put two or more races and other together. Any questions about that?
Can I just have a quick question? What's the baseline year again?
So the baseline year is a year before you start JDAI. So for Marion County, it's 2005. And so we aggregate all of that up. For Wayne County, it's 2013 is their baseline year. For Allen County, it's 2013.
So when you're saying baseline year, it's not the same year for every?
No, we have a formula to aggregate all of that up. Yes. Does that make sense? Are you okay with that?
I'm glad I don't have to figure it out. No, I know what I'm looking at.
So the next slide is the same. It's the average daily population again, but just showing the trended data that we talked about before, and also showing it by broken out by white youth and youth of color, but then breaking out the youth of color on the right-hand side. So you can see the differences in the youth of color average in terms of average daily population.
Nancy?
Yes.
Again, looking at this data quite naturally speaks for itself, right? But when we review this data or even going forward, captivating a lot of that data information, again, I want to definitely make sure we're looking at the root causes by all metrics and means, because I think that is the strong baseline for us to really tackle and challenge that on our end.
It sure is. Yes. Yes. And so that's the question, right? Again, this is designed to get some questions going. Why is that? Why is it that in 2021, we had 123 youth of color in secure detention and 73 white youth on an average day, when our population is approximately in Indiana, 43% white, I think, last time I checked?
You took that out of my mouth. I was thinking that in my head.
Is that right, Julie? No?
I think it's still majority white.
Yep.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I did the other, sorry, the other way. Sorry. Okay, two more data slides and then we'll move on. This is, we calculate rates of admission. That's another way to look at the disparity issue. So this is kind of a combination of baseline year up top, and then we have the last 5 years in terms of rates of admission. And that is youth of color with white youth. Okay, so the way that you read that is that in the county's baseline, all the aggregate counties baseline year, The rate of admission was 46 per 1,000 youth for youth of color and 18 per 1,000 youth for white youth. So then over on the right side, what we can see is that in baseline, comparing again, just the baseline, not the momentum, but the impact piece, youth of color have been detained at a rate of more of twice their white counterparts overall. This is something we call the disparity gap, because down, if you looked at 2021, with all of the fantastic work we've done, right, with 14,000 admissions down to 3,000 admissions, we are still seeing that youth of color, they are 2.4 times more likely to be detained than white youth. So that gap is growing. That's where we know we have to do more work. We know that when we're looking, we can't just pat ourselves in the back and say, holy cow, we've reduced secure detention admissions by 77%. We still have work to do. Next, yes. And so then this is, again, rates of admission shown over time, and it's broken down the youth of color by race and ethnicity. What the one on the right shows is when you break down not just youth of color compared to white youth, but Black youth in 2021 were more than 4 times more likely to be detained than white youth. We share this data not as a gotcha, not as a finger point, but as a reality. This is where we are, and this is where our work is. Okay? All right, so we're still talking about the beginning, right? And why we have great data now on detention. And now we're going to work into starting the evolution process, which is really still in the parts of the beginning, kind of blurs, but this is what Dr. Oswald was mentioning before. We have 73% of Indiana's youth aged 10 to 17 residing in a JDAI county, and I'm going over my time, so I might start speeding up a little bit, but slow me down, sorry. 2 counties are still exploring JDAI as introductory sites, although one of them at the conference last week said we want to go all in, so I think we're down to 1 now. We got another one. Next slide, please. So the evolution. So a couple of things. We are adding some additional data points to our annual report. Now that we've got really good solid detention data, we're going to move into including post-dispositional use of secure detention. That's just one example, but we're also talking about screening decisions. So using the detention screening tool and understanding the reasons that the recommendation of that detention screening tool may have been overridden. And that's really helpful in determining program development needs. Because if a youth has to go to secure detention or because there's not an available alternative to detention program, that's where some of this work of this committee is going to come into play. Because really what we're going to say is, what do we need to do to make that happen? If you felt that they were okay to stay in the community, but you just didn't have that option available, how can we make that happen? We're starting to gain confidence in program utilization data. So the alternatives to detention, we're also looking at post-dispositional use of those programs because in a lot of sites, for example, electronic monitoring, it's used both pre-disposition and post-disposition, but we want to look at those separately because the purpose of that is different, right? Pre-disposition, you're looking at, for those of you who do pretrial work, you're looking at not committing a new offense and showing up to court, right? Post-disposition, it should be more for a treatment purpose. There should be some goal attached to use of electronic monitoring. So in response to considering data, in addition to secure detention, we've really started to discuss how to get referral data. Again, that's going to be super important for those counties that don't send a lot of kids to detention. But this really requires understanding of the varying ways that referrals are sent and received to and by the youth legal system. So Dr. Alsma chairs our data work group, and we're deep into this right now because it's hard to get a handle on all referrals when in some counties, referrals go to the prosecutor's office and they may not even send them to probation. So probation is the one doing this reporting. They have to figure out, well, what did you get and what did you not send us in addition to what you sent us and what way set you back and all of those things. So it's not as easy as it sounds. It sounds like it'd be super easy. Hey, let's just get all referral data. In fact, we had this conversation with our JDI coordinators, didn't we, Nicole? We were like, hey, we need referral data. Like, yeah, okay, we got it. And then we started asking those questions and they're like, oh, we don't necessarily get that. So that's a really important piece that we're starting to work on. And that's going to be really key for the diversion efforts, which is about what probation transformation is. Probation transformation really was kind of started by the Casey Foundation. There's lots of different work being done on that now. The CSG recently put out a toolkit for breaking the rules. Used to be RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, but now they've changed their name. They have done some things on probation transformation. The two big things on probation transformation are increasing diversion opportunities and right-sizing probation. And what we mean by that is we have to remember that probation was started by a community member. And it was started to keep people in the community out of prison. But what we've really done, and not just us in Indiana, all across the country, we've turned this around in the past 100 or so years, and probation really is a default disposition. Everybody gets probation, right? And it really becomes the first step into the deepest end of the system. So if we can really focus that on the youth who need that supervision and divert some of these other youth to community-based options who don't need that, that observation and compliance piece, but need something else, then we're going to take a whole lot of load off our probation officers, which I think that they will be pleased that they can focus on the youth who really need them, right? So what are we moving to? What are we evolving to? We are evolving to a youth legal system that is just, that is committed to equity and procedural fairness. Young people have a high sense of procedural fairness. They are more satisfied with their cases if they feel heard, even if the outcome was not good. If they feel heard and listened to, they will be more satisfied with what happens and more engaged. We want a system that's developmentally appropriate, responding in a way that maximizes diversion when safely possible, promotes probation practices that are based on supporting young people in their communities. Accountable. We want a system that is accountable to the youth, families, and communities that we serve. We are public servants. And we want to be accountable to those systems, accountable for implementing best practices, achieving positive outcomes, and advancing equity. We also want a system that is inclusive, where system professionals recognize the critical importance and the value of families and make them partners, full partners, in their child's case and in system improvement. So this is the future. Leading with authentic partnerships with youth and families. These are the youth, these are the people who are most impacted by our systems. We've had the privilege and pleasure to have a group of the young people join us for the conference last week. And if I heard it once, I heard it 20 times. They want to talk and connect with someone who's had a similar experience. This doesn't mitigate the need for formal therapeutic services for some of these youth, but for many, if not most, they want adults in their lives who are credible, who will look them in the eyes and listen. And this is why we need to invest in the community. So all of these things fit together. This is where we're going. And I really hope that this is the work that we could share, that we can share together. JDI can share with this oversight committee and all of the work that the subcommittees are doing. This is the way that I think, and I think our executive committee really feels like we could work together. JDI is working toward a result of all youth in Indiana thrive. We have a target population result of all youth encountering the justice system thrive, and with guidance that will have a focus on race equity. I think this is the place where we share. Don't you?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I went over.
Not a problem. Take a deep breath, Nancy. That's the fastest 38 minutes of JDAI I've ever heard. I lost count at about 3,850 words, but tremendous. Thank you so much for that presentation, and thank you and your team and everyone that's involved in JDAI. You know, I think JDAI is much like what our oversight committee is charged with. We have some parameters and some objectives, but the legislature gave its vote of confidence in the ability of this group to take that charge and do what is best for Indiana. And just like the Annie Casey Foundation oftentimes was a little concerned about what Indiana was doing, but we were doing it our way, and it's proved successful in our state. So thank you. We wanted you to have that mostly as a reminder for all of you. Before we move on with the work group updates, don't want to overwhelm Nancy, but if there are any other questions or comments, if we can't get to them now, we'll get back to them after the meeting. But any other thoughts or questions for Nancy before we move on?
So this might be Matt Alsma. Thanks for the question time. What might that vision look like going forward for the 60-some counties that have not been touched by JDI at all? What are your thoughts?
So I think that in the conversations we've been having in our executive committee also are thinking about starting small, so to speak, small from the sense of, we don't know today how many youth we have in secure detention in Indiana. I know how many we have in JDI counties because I get reports every single day, but we don't know that. Wouldn't that be nice to know? When we start with counties, there are times when we'd say, well, what was your secure detention population? How many did you send? And they don't even know. So it's starting in those places where we can get some common, we have some definitions already, but some places to get some really good baseline kind of data around that, I think would be important. The other thing I think is going to be really important with the other counties is to, and I'm not sure who this is, if it's this committee, if it's subcommittees, to be in support of them, for them to understand that we are not here to tell them what to do, but we want to understand and want to help them because we know we're all in this. Any probation officer, any juvenile court judge, you do this work because you like kids, right? You want better for kids. I don't think that's something that we can disagree with. So if we can think about that result, that all youth thrive, all youth encountering the justice system thrive, and how do we start getting to that and getting folks interested? The piece about the data that I said before, that we don't want to be the place where you just submit something to. We want to help them understand this is something you can use, not to take away discretion, but to inform it.
Yeah.
So that's a key piece. And it's also, they're going to have more. I think one of the things that we've learned is to have this be locally driven. So understanding, our motto kind of is state-led and locally driven. We listen to our local sites. And when you're starting with, I hope we don't have a county named this because I'm truly making it up. We're going to start with Frank County, and they're going to hear this, oh my gosh, there's all of these new statutory things, and what's the state doing now? And if someone can go in and say, what do you have going on here? What do you have going on here that you want to focus on? And we help get them focused on that using some data, because otherwise, if we just say, what program do you want to start? They're going to start a program, and it's probably not going to have the results they want. And then they're going to be, because they didn't do it in a data-informed way. But the combination of those things, the data-informed piece, and then understanding how to support those local sites in addressing what they see every day. Because we're not there. The local folks, you are, but none of us are there. And we have to understand where they are.
Thanks.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just real quick. This is Director Stigdon. For the counties that are not currently involved with JDAI, can one of the questions be to identify what their trends have been over the last 10 years, just to see if they have similar trends, and if so, are they doing something there, even though they're not involved with JDAI? I just wonder if there is an opportunity, but what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's not. I should have answered that question a little differently, because it's not always going in and saying, what are your concerns? What are you doing well? Right? What things are happening already that you might be able to share with other counties? The local folks here that are represented, what we hear, one of the most, if not the most valuable part of being part of JDI is the network. I don't know if you feel that way, Judge Dolan. I think you've told me that before, is really kind of the network that's developed and the sharing, and that doesn't come from us. We're not developing these great new programs. We're hearing from what's happening and figuring out how to share and spread that around. Thank you.
Great conversation. And I don't mean to cut it short. I think all of us in our involvement with JDAI and other ongoing reform in Indiana, it's important sometimes as we do our work to appreciate some of the lessons learned. And I'll be the first one to admit again and again that I was not a fan of JDAI originally when I was a trial court judge because there was a communication issue. In other words, I'm sure the message was good, but I was not hearing it correctly. And so what I heard was, you are doing it incorrectly. You are doing it wrong. And so we need to be mindful as we do our work and make our reports and make our recommendations that we're thinking in terms of how best to make our work successful, how best to get the critical stakeholders, the judicial officer, probation officers, everybody involved in the system, all of you in the room, and all of the people outside the room, to get them to buy into what we're trying to do. We are trying to help them. And the easier we can make that, the easier we can make the processes, the easier we can make it easy for them to see the benefit, the more likely we are to be successful. And I think that's what we're trying to do. And we wanted to give you this little flavor for everybody. So thank you again, Nancy, kudos, and thank you for a great Oversight conference. If you have any questions for Nancy, reach out to her. She will get back with you. And if there's something else we need to talk about in the future with a work group or the next Oversight Committee meeting, we will do that. If acceptable, we'll move on to the work group updates. And remember, need the famous red, green, and yellow report. And then anything else that you want to bring to the group's attention. We'll start with the screening work group. And I believe Michelle is going to give that report for Shannon, who's unable to join us today. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For those of you who have not met me before, my name is Michelle Goodman. I'm a staff attorney at the Office of Court Services. I provide staff support to many projects, but including this one with the screening and admissions group. Hence, Shannon asked me to make the report today. She apologized for not being able to be available. Before I give you a little bit of an update of what we've done, I don't know how many of you know the makeup of our work group, and it might be helpful for you to know as we talk about what we've done and what we are working toward. Our work group has a significant proportion of members from the probation departments across the state, but we also have representation from a juvenile detention center, the prosecutors, public defense, DCS, and DOC. So we have a vast majority of folks who are in the field. We also have a legislative representative on our group. And so I wanted to make sure you were aware of that, because as we talk through some of the work we're doing in our work group, you can understand a little bit better about the investment, the involvement that folks already have with the assessment systems and the screening tools that are used because they use them on a daily basis, versus those who might be newer to those topics and those information because of their position within our system. And so a lot of our discussion throughout is not just talk about what we already have, but also getting some of those questions and some of those pieces of information where folks want more understanding and more information as we discuss, because they all do have some different characteristics from their stakeholder perspective. So our work group has met twice since this work group last met. In our first meeting in August, we had just a brief overview of JDAI, which Nancy did a great job here. Our review is a little bit shorter than that because we also had other reviews that we were doing. So in addition to the JDAI overview, we did an overview of the youth assessment system called the Indiana Youth Assessment System. It's a validated tool that probation and DOC use. It works across different points of our decision-making processes. So there's different tools that we use at different periods of time. And so we talked a little bit about what that meant and what that information was about for those stakeholders who are less familiar, and try to give them an orientation to the discussion. We've also worked at our September meeting to look specifically through the statutory language in 1359, alongside the policies and procedures we already have in place in Indiana related to the youth assessment system, and trying to talk about how the language of 1359 should impact our review of the policies that exist. Are there opportunities for improvement or amendment? What are some of the concerns and considerations that stakeholders around the table have about knowledge, understanding, and experience? So that's kind of the walkthrough that we started working on in our September meeting. Our work group has three main deliverables. We're supposed to give this work group back information regarding screening tools for diversion, risk and need tools for dispositional decisions, including out-of-home placements, as well as screening for secure detention. So both JDI and the youth assessment system are topics of our group because they work in coordination on many levels with our work. The other thing that we've done is we've set up a subcommittee of members who can try to gather some questions and feedback pieces that we want to know from other stakeholders and try to devise a way to effectively get good, clear feedback and information. At first, we talked a little bit about what types of tools are available for that, like surveying or other things. We are asking the group to come up with the questions, come up with the audience that needs to answer those questions, but we're not dedicated to a survey. We think there might be opportunities to have better conversation, one-on-one with stakeholder groups, things like that, that can get some more context around the responses versus just a cold response to a survey. So we're trying to be thoughtful about how we gather that feedback to help inform our recommendations back to this group. Also in our discussion, we've identified a lot of opportunities where we as Nancy kind of mentioned, the foundation, right? Assessment is the foundation and a lot of what we're asking folks to do in 1359. How do we coordinate with the other groups that is meaningful and impactful for? So we do need to have some work done with our group and the diversion group specifically, because there's a lot of things that are going on in that level, but also a lot with the data work group. I'm very thankful though that we also have other members of our office and staff who are very familiar with some of the work too. So we kind of have a pseudo liaison function there, but there will be some opportunities for more formal conversation. And then we also have a representative on the probation standards group. That's one of the charges our group has, is to connect with that group. And so Shannon, our chair, is also on that group. So we are treating that as liaison function to try to keep those lines of communication open between those groups and trying to make sure that we're coordinating versus working against each other on those things. For purposes of this report, I think we're kind of more in the yellowish green zone, Justice David, if you want to stick with that. We're not fully like, you've got everything under control, but we are getting better at how we're going to formulate what we're working toward, how we're documenting what we're doing, and how we're going to have those important conversations. I think the request from our work group at this point is a couple of things. One, we'd like to hear any comments, feedback, suggestions, questions that any of the members here have related to this topic. So you can feel free to email Shannon, Judge Trevino is our co-chair, myself as staff. We'd be happy to collect those questions, comments, so we can bring them back to the work group to help add to the dialogue we're already taking part in, and make sure that we're not overlooking things as we go forward of things that are interest of this group, since you guys are the final body who gets to vote and review our recommendations. The other thing I would let you know is our work group was advised by myself that the Indiana Youth Assessment System has been undergoing a validation project. Our hope is that results will be done before this work is done in this phase of 1359 oversight work. So we will be at some level being able to provide that information back to the work group members, but then also it's open to this committee as well. I'll leave it up to Justice David of whether or not he wants a more formal presentation to this group about any of the assessment information, validation study work, once that's completed as well. So we are open to inviting and helping facilitate folks who can talk more directly about some of those research-based instruments if the work group would see fit to do so. So that would be my report, Justice David.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And we'll make sure the minutes reflect that you did a tremendous job of doing that report for Shannon and made Shannon very proud. And thanks for the update on the revalidation of the screening assessment tools. That I think that might be something maybe offline, get input from the oversight committee members about whether or not they'd like a presentation about that, what it looks like, and why that's so important in a future meeting. Any questions of the screening work group? And thanks for the amber turning green. I'm going to take that as trending positively, but we have complete faith and confidence in your work group. Any questions for screening? Thank you, Michelle. Dr. Alsma, data.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll be reporting on the data subcommittee. Mary Kay Hudson is co-chair and Lisa Thompson is our staff representative. So thankful for her structure and order. It's been incredibly helpful. So we had our second meeting. At this meeting, we took some time just to discuss the difference between kind of evaluation, retrospective data, and research, so prospective data. So just as Nancy was kind of outlining, that much of JDI has really been utilizing data for quality improvement purposes, data-driven decision-making. There is a mandate with the House bill around research. So we're getting at some of those deeper questions that you were outlining, James, the why of what's driving this, social determinants of health. So we know that we can't tackle all of this, but there is this research mandate. So we had a robust discussion about what that can look like and really highlighting some of the needs there. So that's been important for the scope and thinking about how to move forward well. So coming out of our second meeting, we had two work groups. One is really looking at data definitions. So there's been incredible work with JDI around defining different elements with data and different parts of the system. So we had a good discussion about what we can kind of take from this definition, this data dictionary that's a living, breathing document, and how some of that might need to be tweaked because we are keeping our eye on that 60-some counties that might not be necessarily in the same place in terms of looking at data definitions. So we're always holding that tension in place. So we're gonna have a report out at our next meeting on that process. Another one that we really focused on are quality measures. So in healthcare systems and electronic health records, there are a lot of these quality metrics to really look at when someone leaves the hospital for a mental illness. Within 7 days, they should be followed up at a community mental health system. There's not really a corollary within justice settings. There's been some discussion about how that might be helpful. So what are the important performance measures in the justice world to really think about our programs working and where do we need to go? So we had a separate work group with that. We're going to have a report out at our next data meeting. So kind of working through the goals of the data committee, identifying what needs to be there, and we're making some good progress in that realm. I do think some questions for the broader group. I really like this idea of ping questions, ideas, thoughts to myself, to Mary Kay, to Lisa around clarity with data. Data is coming up at all of our different work groups. So if there is a function that we can help in terms of clarity, whether it be with mental health or screening, or there's this data piece that is really important, or there's this burning research question that we might want to build into that research plan, let us know. I think that liaisons function is going to be incredibly important. So keep that in mind. In general, I would say green, like a solid green. I don't feel a whole lot of amber necessarily, but I would love to hear if there are some leanings towards amber. Mary Kate, nope, she's good too. We're a solid green. Good. So any questions for data? Any of the elements that we're hitting on or some things you want to make sure that we're addressing in terms of our scope and goals?
Dr. Alsma.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. With collecting the data, I know this is probably a rhetorical statement and or question, but really having a key focus around economics. And I think you probably know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Especially more towards socioeconomics, which is the trigger to a lot of different perspectives, mental health, drug addiction, and so on and so forth. So when you collect a lot of that data and get a lot of solid pieces of that, I would love to connect with you on that and really see the roadmap behind that, socioeconomic development behind that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So the economics really as a driver, we have had discussion about social determinants of health, which is clearly impacting all the systems that we're working with. And we have a great partner with Management Performance Hub that really does a lot of the linking data that can really understand some of those elements. So that's definitely been something on the research side that we've been talking about. Thanks. Keep lifting that up.
That means I'm on the right path. Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
You get a star, James. We'll give you a star for today. Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Mary Kay, and thank you to your work group. And we were talking about this at the JDAI meeting not too long ago, data in general, and the challenge with data is to use it, not abuse it, and not to ignore it. So as we go forward and we're turning in our product later on and advising not just the legislature, but the court and all of the stakeholders, what's next. Let's be thinking about what do we want to do with this data and what the next steps are, and to remind our legislative friends that just because we have the data doesn't mean we're done, and just keep that in mind, as I know we will, but we have to figure out how to best educate everybody about that. Any other questions or comments on data? We'll turn to behavioral health. Cirilla?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I chair the Behavioral Health Committee along with Dr. Doss, and am very fortunate that we are staffed by Nick and Mindy, who are just wonderful. So I would like to start off. The group, our work group has not had any outside presentations since the last meeting. However, at our most recent October 4th, the work group discussed potential speakers, including inviting speakers from other states who are also engaged in justice reform. There's also an interest in inviting speakers from Voices to have that youth perspective on behavioral health assessment and share their experience in the system, which will also help guide the final report. This will also guide the work group in the goal of developing recommendations in regard to policies, protocols, and a statewide implementation plan for the provision and use of diagnostic assessments to address broader behavioral health services for youth in the juvenile justice system. Since the last meeting, the work group has met monthly, September 13th and October 4th. At our September meeting, the work group members discussed strengths and opportunities in the juvenile behavioral health system. This helped the group review existing data on behavioral health needs of the youth and scan current services that are accessible to justice-involved youth overall. Work group members were asked to explain their organization roles in an effort to map out the system for their particular agency or group. They were also asked to highlight their strengths and opportunities in their current system, which guided a discussion on collaboration on path moving forward for the group. We heard from members who worked with Department of Corrections, Department of Child Services, of course, DMHA, Division of Disability and Rehabilitation Services, probation, courts, and the Department of Education. At our October meeting, we continued the discussion of services currently available and gaps and opportunities. An overview of the work group charge and expectations moving forward were also discussed. The following subcommittees were created: service availability, workforce, and parental/community engagement. The work group members were asked to participate in a subcommittee and suggest colleagues or members of the community that may be a good fit for their particular subcommittee. The work group members are currently planning subcommittee meetings to be held before the December work group meeting. Let's see. The Service Availability Committee will be looking at available services, quality of those services, space issues, payer source options, and I forgot, we also have the Office of Medicaid also as a part of our group, and other factors in determining an approach to assessment for the final report. The Workforce Subcommittee will be looking at what can be done to assist an overwhelmed system. As we all know, there's really prevalent workforce issues. And I think for what enlightened me was the awareness of staff that work in detention and how short-staffed they are and how that lends to safety issues, burnout. So I think that's really important for us to look at that. Issues like not enough psychiatric beds, not enough personnel, lack of communication among systems and understanding with existing staff. The Parental and Engagement Committee will look at support following release, resources available to address lack of transportation, childcare for appointments, role of DCS engagement when a dual status youth is detained, and the role of prevention services. The subcommittee will meet before our next meeting on December 8th and will be responsible for reporting back at each work group meeting. Based on subcommittee reports and future work group discussions, the overall behavioral health plan will need to be developed. The work group is responsible for the tasks with assistance and input from the subcommittees. The work group hopes to have our initial draft done by March or April of 2023. At this time, I don't think we have any needs or asks, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thanks, Cirilla. What's your color? What's your self-diagnosis today?
Green.
Okay. Thank you. Questions? Any questions, comments for Cirilla, her team?
I have a question. I'm just wondering about if you are formally or informally considering the role of diversion in the mental health piece. Like when I'm hearing, you know, the concerns that are being raised around not enough beds, I'm almost harkening back to when we were filling our detention beds and thinking about, I know that you did a presentation at the JDA conference specifically about diversion based on a framework of the National Center for State Courts. But I don't know if you were able to be in this. There was a session where some of the youth were talking and they were talking about their relationship with formal therapists. And I don't want to mitigate the need for formal services for a lot of these youth. However, there were a lot of them who also said, I will talk to Miss So-and-so and I'll talk to Mr. So-and-so, but I'm not talking to you. And so is there a framework we could consider where the mentor piece could be somehow combined in a way that youth who are in crisis, sometimes they need that as much as they need formal therapy. And I'm kind of rambling now and I'll stop, but that's what I was kind of going through my mind as I heard your report.
I think when we're talking parental and community engagement, it's looking at those resources within that community and looking at all levels and models of engaging, right? What I know is most effective, and I've listened to youth, I've listened to parents, is hearing it from their own community, people that look like them, people who have experienced that we can lift up and embrace those agencies at the grassroots level. Because and this is what I talked about at the JDAI conference, is because of this work shortage, we have to look and think outside the box and engage our faith leaders, our faith communities, and think about those non-traditional options, not saying that therapy is important, but what are we going to do? We can't wait because things are not going to wait. So we have to use the resources that are available in front of us.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Justice.
No, I didn't hear you speak.
I talk so low, so I'm trying to get in the habit of talking loud, so bear with me. Nancy, to kind of piggyback off of that, I think you touched on a good point. For anybody to connect, I think a good stepping stone, if I should say, if you're looking at other different options, definitely deal with individuals that's been engaged and been through the experiences by all means. The piece to that, when they engage, that's the beginning of kind of pushing them into therapy, because now they have somebody they can relate and help understand why therapy is important. And so looking at different mechanisms by all means to kind of really tackle that piece, especially from a mental health perspective.
The only thing I was going to add, good points. The only thing I was going to add is perhaps a little cross-pollination between behavioral health and diversion as we move forward, encouraging all that between and among the work groups. And then it might be an issue by one or both those work groups to run by the Family and Youth Advisory Committee when we get that stood up. Just my 2 cents. Tracy, diversion.
Morning, everybody. I'm Tracy Fitz. I chair the diversion work group along with Megan Horton, and our staff is Diane Maines, who's been fantastic and is keeping us on track. We had our second full work group meeting September 23rd. And ahead of that meeting, we had sent out, just to remind everyone, our work group's deliverables are to establish policies and protocols for research-based pretrial diversion and informal adjustment programs and practices, and to develop parameters for the juvenile diversion grant program. So it seems like a lot, but really there's so much overlap. So when we were looking at what we were doing ahead of our last meeting, we sent out a lot of information to our group because we wanted to remind them we're not recreating the wheel necessarily from scratch. We sent out a Models for Change diversion workbook. We sent out a lot of information already compiled on best practices from other states around diversion. I think those were from Baltimore, Colorado, and Virginia, I want to say, but they've already taken a good look at what works best and what is working as they've implemented it in their states. So we're reviewing a lot of that. But at this meeting, we heard first from our grants subgroup, because we created that right away, knowing we have to work with Devon's grants process group, and they're on a little tighter timeline. And so they reported to us what they were working on. They already have a group of questions and a group of counties going back on the work that we had previously done in a diversion group. They're going to dig a little deeper to get to some numbers, to get to really, I think they said they're specifying looking at counties that have a ton of diversion options and why and how they're making that happen and what works. And then they're going to talk to counties that have none and figure out what's going on there and what could maybe turn that around. And then they were definitely drilling down on numbers, which I know is important to the grants process group. So they are coming back to us at our next meeting, which is November 18th, with their deliverables. Which was one of the clever things we thought of. And now that I went to the JDAI Oversight conference and went to the discussion on results-based facilitation, I am really happy that we came up with the action items, and I'm working on even being better at that. So everyone's working. They're coming back with those deliverables around that. We're hoping to vote on those November 18th, and we have a meeting with the grants process group on October 20th ahead of that to see if we're on track with what they need. We also created a best practices sub-work group because we found it's just going to be easier to get work done if we don't have to all be present all the time. And they also came up with a list of deliverables around best practices that they are bringing back to the next meeting. And then we formed a data subgroup, really more specifically to look at what data we want to capture and how we're going to do that in the diversion process as it's built in, and also around do we need new definitions? Do we need anything different as we're looking at 1359 and implementing it? And we will hopefully get with the data group at some point to discuss that. Yeah, so that's what's going on. There's several meetings happening with the different little work groups. Like I said, our next meeting's November 18th, and I am feeling so green, Justice David. So
green. Not green as in ill, right?
Not green like COVID, but just green like.
Oh, ouch, ouch.
Happy people are moving.
Ouch. Well, thank you, Tracy. A great report. Any questions, comments about diversion?
Just one follow-up. Great work. Good job. So if you're a best practice subcommittee, it would be great to see what practices out there when a family or youth is in crisis and they might need more formal services rather than informal services, how to pay for that. So I think that would be a wonderful topic to tackle, because there are options out there,
right?
But often it's putting a youth on informal adjustment, which is not true diversion. So I think that would be wonderful to see what's out there, what's possible. You're tackling that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that's a great point. Particularly think in terms of counties, courts, that we want to bring along that can benefit from what's being done in other counties, best practices, and how to make it as easy as possible for those reluctant counties to do different things and do things differently. So I think that would be a really good question to help answer. If I'm reluctant, if I'm not comfortable changing, this is the way it's always been done in my county, and this is the way everyone operates. We've got to crack that code, and we crack that code by making it as easy as possible for them to change. Any other questions, comments?
Yes. I just had one question and comment. As you're looking at the crisis continuum, please reach out to Dr. Chris Drapeau, because he's working on that statewide 988 crisis continuum plan. Okay. And he would have that information because he's developing a full package to present to the legislation. And in terms of best practices, please, I want to talk about that because of MST and other modalities that have been affected.
There's a training coming up on MST. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Super. Anyone else? Grants, Devin?
I don't have a report because Tracy just did it, but no, I'm kidding. No, Devin McDonald, I'm the chair for the grants work group, but I do appreciate that though, because Tracy is right. We have a lot of questions, and just to reiterate, our timeline is substantially shorter than everybody else's. Just so at our next full group meeting that we have here, what is the 14th of December or whatnot, we actually have to have our report to the committee, just to show you how short that timeline is. So with that, we do have, our last full group meeting was the 26th of September. With that though, we have multiple subgroups within our work group. We've got a data work group. We've got our committee, or whatever, data group, funding formula group. We have a survey group as well, which I say survey, not gonna be a survey, targeted questions. And then a report writing work group, I think that's all we have, with multiple people heading those up. With that, all but the report work group has met multiple times in the last several weeks to discuss a variety of topics. In going with the theme of asks of what I have, or as the chair of what we have, is like what we're doing with Tracy and her work group, meeting and asking for the information that you might have that could be beneficial or relate to what the information that we're looking for. I met with Cirilla and Dr. Dawes this morning and talked about a few items. She's going to provide me with some data. I've already gotten some data from DCS to take a look at. But if there's anything that you might have that you think would be beneficial to the work group to help us with our report. And again, kind of the crux of what our report has to address is the amount of money dedicated to each grant. With that, we need to take a look at not only, really what we need to take a look at is, okay, we know, I don't know, $42 million is currently being spent, but in order for the system to actually meet the goals that we want for the system, we need $90 million. And so it's that gap between the 42 and the 90 is really what we need to focus on in our report. And that's what our ask needs to be. So I spoke with one of our, Kim Whitehurst from Grant County. She mentioned, for instance, in her particular county, they have mental health services, say, but they have a wait list for 300 people. Well, if there's a dollar amount for that 300 group that would facilitate, what is that dollar amount? That's really what we need to get to. One of the other questions that we have is, as it relates to data, and one of the other things that we have to develop is the parameters for the use of the funds, the performance metrics that we need to develop. And so that's something that would be key. I know you guys are not in the same position we are from that perspective in wanting to get that information put in the report, but are there performance measures, in particular outcomes, that might be interested in that we can include in that report or include in the solicitation that ultimately goes out sometime next year. And so anything you might have, we're obviously going to look at some of the standard data points. How many kids have you served? Race, ethnicity. How many kids, if you're doing a diversion program, how many kids successfully completed the diversion program? We're looking at a 2-year grant cycle. So from the implementation of that grant to the end of that grant cycle, if you had a juvenile or you had a child who entered into a diversion program, completed the diversion program, did you see them again before the end of the grant cycle? Were they repeat visitors to those things? Those are the kinds of conversations that we're having and the kind of data metrics that we may want to collect. And we're talking about kind of the family, be very interested to, once this family group gets set up, what are data points that we can facilitate with that? Because we know from juveniles who or kids who participate in programs, if we get the family involved, if we get their social network involved, chances of success are substantially greater because they have more buy-in, they have more support. So, how do we tailor into that? So those are all questions that I would have in my ask is if you have those points or those questions, what are those data points that you would like that we could potentially collect from our grantees once those solicitations are put out? That would be great. I need those yesterday. But certainly, if we could have those maybe in the next few weeks, maybe that would be great because we do have such a short timeline for our report. Some of the other stuff is in our report is the process for streamlining and managing the grants. That one's not too difficult. But those are all topics that we've discussed in our work groups. We did with our funding formula work group, we did take a look at, we do have a base to start with for a couple places to start with funding the grants, and then still talking about how to fund those moving forward. I know the question of implementation versus planning has come up. We've decided, those are both allowable uses of the funds based on the structure and the way the statute's written. So certainly allowable costs within that, because we know you're going to have, for instance, a JDAI county was mentioned a couple times here today, I think, where they may be at a certain starting point or able to just take, yep, we've got a program, but we have a gap of however many, I need 2 more therapists or I need 2 more whatever to really propel this forward. They're going to have a very different ask from, say, Martin County. And I apologize to Martin County because I always pick on them because they're very, very small and have very, very few resources. But Martin County, for instance, may want to have a program, but they have nothing there. So it's going to take them 6 months to put the pieces together before they can implement it. So those are things that we've talked about and questions that we're asking. Overall, I would say we're at a solid Grello color. So I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie because our timeline is very, very short, but we are making progress, which is good. So we're a good kind of green and yellow at the same time. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with that. We have our next meeting here in a couple of weeks on the 27th. As Tracy said, I do have some folks. I'll be out on vacation next week, but we do have some folks meeting with Tracy and her group. I know there's some other folks that want to come or want to meet with some other groups as well. So we'll get those set up. I would like to thank James. He's provided us with some good data and some good information. He's part of the work group as well. So appreciate his involvement with that. Outside of that, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, yes. Devin. This is an all hands on deck. So Devin, look around the room and look on the virtual screen. If there's anybody that we can volunteer ourselves to assist you individually, your co-chair, the work group, putting this together, we're all in this together. So your success is our success, and your Rello or whatever your combination colors are, we all share that. So let us know what we can do in whatever capacity. If you need additional resources, we'll do our best to provide those to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We did have one ask about the format for the report, and I know Leslie worked with you guys to get a lot of that information. So that's greatly appreciated, because I will say that was one of our big questions, is what does this report actually need to look like when we send it forward? So appreciate that information, because we need to start working on that now. And I guess that is one update I forgot. My prior co-chair was Danielle Zagone. She left DOC, and Judge Shine stepped up, volunteered, I guess, to become co-chair for the committee, and she's done a great job. So thank you to her for that.
Fantastic. And you know, stress and anxiety are not fun, but stress and anxiety are something that need to be shared. So let's share with your stress and anxiety, and we'll get through this. Questions for Devin, comments? Anybody want to tell him his deadline's been shortened? Go right ahead. I'm not there, so take your best shot.
I just got a question for you, Devin. Have you got a chance to breathe and sleep lately? Because you've been on the go. All the meetings I'm seeing, you're on the go.
I never sleep much. I'm like, have you seen those commercials with Troy Polamalu and Patrick Mahomes? And he's like, never not working.
Yeah.
Never not working.
Gotcha.
Justice David.
Yes.
I just have one thought for Devin, and Dr. Alsma can disagree with me if he does.
Be careful to do that, Matt.
But I think, you know, Devin, you point out some of the bigger questions as it relates to the data components. From my perspective, I feel like some of that pressure can be removed as long as the counties are collecting some of those process pieces and descriptive information of who's completing programs, who's in them, what services are they receiving. That's where the research eventually kicks into how are these kids faring when they're in certain programs? Why are their outcomes looking a certain way? So I wouldn't want us to, I don't know if burden's the right word, but task the counties with providing so much data that we could ultimately work as a research team could work on looking at some of those outcomes. So as long as you capture some of the foundational pieces, and maybe that's something that, Matt, if you would be willing to just put your eyes on, just to say, do we have enough information here to really start examining some of the outcomes?
Yes.
Noted, get with Dr. Alsma.
Yeah.
That was a good answer, Dr. Alsma. No, I think that, you know, again, it gets to the point of making things easier and more likely to be undertaken. So, yeah. Anything else related to grants? Transitional services. Terry's unable to be with us today, so we're going to hear from, who is this person? Nancy Weaver.
Yes, and I think this is probably going to be the quickest, because I'm going to read what Terry submitted. Tyler is actually handling our JDI state work groups today, so that he's staffing that. Magistrate Van and Terry co-chair, and Tyler staffs with Joseph Fisher from Office of Court Services, but they're all gone today. So this is the report from the Transitional Services Group. Since the last meeting, the group has had 2 meetings. The first meeting was introduction, and then introduction to the process for youth that enter the DOC DYS, Division of Youth Services, as well as how they exit, whether they go to parole, probation, or discharge. We spent a great deal of time on the subject, as the majority of our group were not aware of this process. We also asked the group about any representation that we may be missing and what information they would need or want to move forward. So it sounds like additional group members were also discussed. Based on the suggestions from the first meeting, we added a few more committee members for the second meeting, did introductions again. Magistrate Van spent some time providing information about the process that is followed in his court. Magistrate Van is from Lake County. When youth are before him prior to or as they are committed to the Department of Correction. During the second meeting, we asked about opinions from the group on how we may change the re-entry strategy for youth leaving DOC. Third meeting is scheduled for the 19th, which is next week. We will have presentations from providers to educate the group on the types of services that can be provided or are being provided to youth as they leave restrictive placements. At that meeting, we'll be discussing breaking into subcommittees to start putting together ideas on how to move forward with our task. Overall, everyone is very interested and involved in the conversations we've had and are willing to add suggestions, and they don't hesitate to ask questions. So it sounds like they are agreeing. I'm just going to make that call.
We'll take a green from you then. Questions for Nancy? So we show you as a green, right, Nancy? On behalf of Terry?
Yes.
Super. Super. Questions, comments? Juvenile probation standards. Judge Foley.
Thank you. I am co-chairing the Juvenile Probation Standards Work Group with Judge Wesch, who's from Vermilion County. We are staffed by the fabulous Colleen Saylor, who's present here today. So Colleen, please feel free to jump in if I get something wrong. We have established our subcommittee. We have 10 members that are made up of members of the judiciary who have or had supervision of probation departments, along with probation officers. Joel Weinecke is also on our work group, along with Vicki Becker from the Elkhart County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. 1359 set out a shall to the judicial conference that they shall develop statewide juvenile probation standards. We actually already have probation standards, which you need to think of as kind of like a general job description for probation officers. So we are charged within the legislation to cover 3 separate areas, kind of redraft the current probation standards. So our work group has divided up into 3 subcommittees that are pretty equally staffed, I think. So we have one subcommittee who's working on conditions of probation and assessments and providing guidelines within the probation standards for implementation of those. A case planning subcommittee, as well as another subcommittee, which Joel and I are both on, for out-of-home placements and commitments to the Indiana Department of Corrections. So each subcommittee has met or will be meeting at least twice by today's date. We actually have our next full group meeting is next week. And I think everybody is actually starting to get drafting done. I know Joel's and my subcommittee, we've actually started redrafting some of the standards. So while we don't have the shortened timeline that the grants work group has, we also have a shorter timeline than most, I think, of the other work groups here. And the reason for that is that while the legislature said that the judicial conference shall, there's actually a probation committee of the judicial conference that has jurisdiction over probation standards. I'm actually a member of that probation committee. So even though we're drafting, the probation committee actually has to approve all of our revisions. And then after that, the board of directors of the judicial conference has to approve what the probation committee has approved. So while we're not exactly sure of what our hard and fast deadline is, because we don't, while I know the probation committee meeting schedule, we don't have the board of directors meeting schedule at this point in time. So working backwards from their adoption date before the July report is made, that's a little unclear at this point in time, but we are working on that. Jenny Bauer is also a member of our work group. And so she's been working with the board of directors to try and get that figured out, because they don't actually have a meeting scheduled for 2023 at this point. So that's kind of one of our big challenges at this point in time. When we do get that meeting scheduled, we have been talking some strategy about who's going to be making the presentation. We may, Justice David, be requesting some assistance from you on that as soon as that gets put together. But I think we're green at this point in time because we are actually drafting.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Judge Foley, and you and your work group are definitely managing this tightrope separation of powers. We understand this is kind of an unusual situation, but everybody's working together, one common goal. So thank you. Questions for Judge Foley, Magistrate Foley, anything good to the order? You wowed everybody.
I like to hit home runs.
There you go. There you go. Well, that completes the work group reports. Just kind of want a friendly reminder, fantastic reports. We did send you all in advance sort of a template we put together for the written reports. A written report would be very helpful in building the body of the work and all that going forward and for the archive value and putting together the final report. So would like to remind you, use the professional staff. We have fantastic people. We can help you, but would like to have a final report in a format similar to the template. It's not bound by that template. If we could have it the day before the meeting, that would be wonderful. If it comes in a couple days late, that's fine too. But just a friendly reminder, that would be very helpful for us going forward. Super reports. We have a few minutes left and a couple other agenda items, but we will get through everything. Show of hands who attended the Oversight with the youth participants. Thumbs up. Again, we talked about this, but thumbs up if you were impressed with the young people that were there and thought that was great. Okay, well, that's the lead in for Kia to give us an update on how things are coming along with the formation of the Family and Youth Advisory Committee. So Kia.
Thank you. Recruitment has started on the youth and family work groups. So far, as of this morning, we had 34 applicants, and it is incredible response. It's literally from all over the state, lots of different counties, lots of different intersections that we're seeing. There's criminal justice involvement, foster care, just a lot of different perspectives. So I'm super excited about that. We plan on having all of those wrapped up. I think the close date is this week. And we're going to summarize all of the findings or all of the folks that hit submissions and send that over to Julie for you all to look at. Our first training or our orientation is scheduled for November 2nd. And so that's where we'll gather everybody that has been confirmed. We'll do a quick overview of 1359, how we got here and that kind of stuff. I think, Julie, you were going to be present for part of that orientation. We have a training schedule set out for the rest of the year. So they'll officially begin training on November 9th. Those will be on 2-hour blocks on a Tuesday evening. We have one in-person session. We're going to invite members of the work group. I think we talked about the grants work group coming to the first meeting because of you guys' tight turnaround. So their first actual session will be November 30th. And we'll make sure that you guys have all of that information. In talking with Julie, we talked about, the new grant for alternative detention for the state and how to distribute the money in a meaningful way. So we'll be able to have some of that input for you guys in time for your report, hopefully. Other than that, the flyer is everywhere. We literally get it forwarded to us, our agency at least 4 times a day. The kids, the young folks that went with us to JDAI, I'm so incredibly grateful for that opportunity. So thank you, Nancy, for that. Their language has changed. Their confidence has increased. They're ready to take on everything now. We're going to use that group to recruit for the youth portion for this group. All are interested in continuing in the work. And so that was another good cross-section of the state. We had 6 counties outside of Marion County represented there. And those young people blew me away. I learned a lot. it was a task getting all those young folks to stay in their hotel rooms. I felt like someone's mean auntie walking up and down the hall. Get your butt back in this hallway. What are we doing? It's 2:00 in the morning, but it was great. It was absolutely incredible. They learned a lot. They were incredibly grateful for the experience. And so we're just excited to continue on the work.
It's amazing what impact that experience may have on those individuals, right? We have no idea. Not the reason that you all attended, not the reason you were there, but you may have had a profound impact on a young person. Who knows how they will change the future. Thanks for that update, Kia. Any questions, comments about our advisory group? Leslie, Julie, did you want to talk for a couple of minutes? And that's probably pretty close to what we have left, but 5, 6, 7 minutes on the conversations regarding gathering stakeholder input, formal, informal, just some of the discussions that you've been privy to in some of the work groups.
Yes, so I know several work groups have talked about doing a survey. I don't know that anybody is at this point moved forward with that. And we have had some discussions about if there were to be a survey that, and I think this is already happening organically, that we would want to coordinate with the different groups, diversion, grants, whoever is interested, and do one survey. So we're not sending multiple surveys. Maybe if there is a survey to be done with just one with questions from different work groups. And then we discussed, is that the best way? And we thought it might be helpful to get your feedback on what do you think is the best way to get to gather feedback, stakeholder feedback from people. Some groups are doing some outreach to communities, to specific probation officers and judges. And I know Tracy's group is doing that. They're doing some specific outreach to get, so they can have follow-up questions. They felt like it would be more useful instead of just asking, you know, what kind of diversion do you want, to talk to them more about what are you doing, what works well, how's it funded, and to have a little deeper dive of a conversation. So her group is doing that. And so we just talked about there's various ways we can get that feedback from different counties, some who are represented here, some who may not be. Those are the conversations we've had. And we also thought we would ask the group what your thoughts are on gathering stakeholder feedback.
And let me just thank you. Great report. I think our thought process is this: to the extent that the work groups, you all want to do some informal surveying or reach out or anything that might fall within this survey preview or purview, have at it. To the extent you're thinking of something more formalized, we need to maintain centralized command and control over that. So if that's your inclination going forward, let us know so we can help you with that. And if we're going to do a formal type survey, it really needs to be a coordinated, concentrated approach, and we'll need to sort that out. So thoughts, any conversations you've had among yourselves and your work groups about what you might do or what you are doing formally or informally, or what you might want to do formally?
Justice, I want to say earlier, listening to all the work groups reporting. Sorry, I was going to say earlier, listen to all the work groups reporting and been a part of the grant development work group. What I see is everybody's piecing for information, and I'm watching everybody have some of the same information collectively together. So from my executive mindset, I just want to make a suggestion. I would say all the chairs need to have a working group meeting. And then therefore you can trade information and develop everything in a more expedited rate. Because right now I'm seeing everybody pull, and I'm in the work group I'm in. I just sit back and listen, and everybody's trying to grab the answers. Some of the answers are right here. So working on a collective work group meeting with the chairs, I think you would get progression a lot faster.
Well, thanks, James. And again, we offered that up earlier, and if it would be helpful if professional staff coordinated 1 or 2 opportunities for a relatively short Zoom virtual meeting with work group chairs on this issue or any other issue, let us know and we'll put that together. We may poll you informally following this meeting and see who has an interest in that and schedule that. Other comments, thoughts on this? I don't know. Is it getting close to noon? We have a couple other off agenda items that aren't on the your formal agenda. I think 10, Julie just added the 11th. So it looks like we'll probably be going longer than noon. That's not a problem for anyone, is it? I'm just kidding. See, I'm sick and I'm still kidding. Our next meeting is December 14th at 10. I don't know about you, but I just want to share how fortunate I am to be involved in this work with all of you. This is an extraordinary undertaking, and we just need to remind each other that this is very necessary work, and you're in the middle of it. And this is sort of like, I don't know about how you do your cleaning, spring cleaning or whatever, but I grew up, and if I had to clean my room, I took everything off the floor, the shelves, everything, and just dumped it on the bed and worked backwards from there. And so things get messier when you do it that way, but that's just how I learned to do it. And that's still how I do things like that. But it gets messier before it gets organized, before it gets tidy again. And that's, I think, what we're doing. We're messing this up so we can make it better. And you are just an amazing group of people, and you're working with work groups who are composed of amazing groups of people. So I am just very, very honored to be a small part of this. Julie, do you have any parting comments? Leslie, any parting comments before we wrap this up today?
I'm just so proud of this work. I just was sitting here listening to every single report and thinking back to, 3 years ago when we started talking about looking at data, and it's awesome. I'm so impressed with every group. So thank you guys. Oh, there are lunches on tables outside. So when we adjourn, we'll have the box lunches available. If you requested one, you can eat here or you can take it to go.
Would somebody bring mine to me, please? Leslie, anything you want to say?
Nope. No, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Anybody have anything, any alibi rounds, any final thoughts, comments, praises, prayers? Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you to the virtual viewers. Thank you, Judge Graham. Thank you, Judge Carmichael. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Stay healthy.
Do you
have other meetings that you have to do since you're here?